been a year since then. Like, have you seen, even though the record's 1-8 right now, have you seen anything that's telling you all y'all are going in the right direction right now?
Yeah, I think we focus on three things, and that's now every year is different. But with where we are now, the three things that we focus on is being tough, together, and joy. I think toughness is a big part of it. Not just being mentally tough. I think we're a very resilient team. You see constantly coming out and fighting very hard, but I think tough just being when we're doing things right. As a defense especially, it's really hard for teams to move the football. And I think just continuing to find ways to do that consistently. I think together, this speaks for itself. I think you're having as hard as a season as a team that collectively that you can have, but there's been no fracture in the team. I think so we have that together element. And I think just the joy. There's nothing fun. The most fun you have in this game is when you're winning. But I think outside of that, just being able to come to work and enjoying what you do, and working on being better at your craft. Outside of the losing element, it's a joy to come to work every day. And so I think those are the three components of things that we want to be building towards. And we have those things. And so I think that's a good foundation as far as locker room is concerned.
Can you tell us about the shirt?
Oh yeah, this is one of our things is just we create the standard, and it's about takeaways, and we kind of have like creating a culture around creating takeaways. And the white one is when you get your first one, the gray one when you get two, and then my goal is to get 3, which is black shirt. So it's like I technically had 3, but we didn't get the ball back, and so I forced a fumble. So I'm working on that black shirt next.
Who's behind that? Which idea was that?
Coach Grady. Something that I think they did it in Pittsburgh, and creating that takeaway culture. And it's all about the ball. I think in today's game, with offenses being able to move the ball up and down the field, just due to the way that how creative the offenses are with a lot of like the way penalties are slanted. I think it's just easy for offense to move up and down the field than it was previously. And so one of the biggest things, you have to be able to take the ball away to disrupt a lot of their rhythm. And so that's something that we want to create.
Does it end at black?
What's that?
Does it end at black or does it keep going?
I mean, there's probably different, like being a black belt, there's different degrees of black belt. So once you get to the black belt, it's probably to stay black, but like, I think on the back of this it has like
I got you.
So the black would probably be like, I got 3, I got 4, I got 5, but they all be black.
They start having like tick marks on
Yeah. So it's like that.
What stands out about Rico Dowdle? Like 650 yards in the last 5 games for them. What makes him so tough?
I think they're doing a great job of running the football, play call, offensive line, blocking downfield by the receivers. They got a stable of tight ends. They're doing a great job, and so I think it's a team effort. But he's doing an incredible job of running the football. I think they have a good 1-2 punch with him and Hubbard. So I think they're doing a great job. He's at the top of the league, and he's running very strong and well.
Where are those teams at? What have you seen from them and the body language and the effort that we're still seeing?
Man, you talk about the defense. Defensively, there's guys still making plays. You had Jonah come out and have a sack last game. Chase had a sack. We wish we could have got that ball out. There's guys that are in the backfield. You see Carl, the way he's flying around the field. Young Quincy, the way he's taking the field. Kool-Aid. You see the guys have the right mindset. And for whatever odd reason, we're not finishing those plays that truly matter. We're coming down with the ball, with punching the ball out at a higher clip. There was one play where it's like 3 guys went for the same tackle. It's like, dang it, if we could just keep the same high energy we're coming out with, we should clearly see it in the second half. But if we clear out that second half and place it in maybe the first quarter, for whatever odd reason is, we've been slow to kickstart. And then it's like you see the surgence of energy. But we need that from gate.
It was about this time last year that Carolina game happened. Dennis gets let go. Have you seen We've seen y'all take steps in the right direction, even if the record isn't.
I mean, again, I think there's always a point in the game where you're like, man, I think Chris Rumph low-key knocked the ball out in the LA game, right? And we didn't get the call our way. But that's just it. There's plays that you see, okay, this is where we can be. But it's not at a consistent level. And clearly you see the scoreboard indicate it's not consistent. First quarter, second quarter, there's always some play that it turns into explosive that leads to a touchdown. And by the second half, it's like, man, if we would have just played this football at the beginning, we wouldn't be having these problems. And the only game that you've seen us have a lead was the Giants game. And it shows accordingly. Let's put 60 minutes together. Again, I can't say it's anybody else. It's on us every time. We have a great starting drive and a penalty happens, or we have a defensive drive that we're about to get off the field and a penalty happens. That's on us. So I can't even look out and be like, man, they were a really good team, but when we're the one messing up.
Think there's anything about your guys' process that leads to those results?
I mean, it's a part of the game, is it not? I mean, at some point, yes. Clearly, we have to take responsibility for that. You don't get to 1-8 playing perfect ball. And at the same time, you're still playing 31 other teams, or every Sunday you're playing a professional team. So that's how close our margins are.
And Charlotte last year, there was the clip of you in the tunnel. Was that the most frustrated you've been
in my life?
I
mean, no one with the top 3 moments, sure.
It looked like you were ready to walk home. Is that true?
To walk home to Arizona seems like a far away. Walk to a plane to fly home, possibly.
The stadium changed the rules now. It's where people can't film in that tunnel after that.
Oh, word.
Yeah.
Look at that. Creating change. Is that a positive or negative thing?
Positive for the players, right?
Positive for the players.
It didn't matter, and my frustration was evident. I mean, what's crazy is we were what 2-7, whatever we were at the time, 3 and something. The locker room has way better energy this year than we did last year. Last year it felt like we were devoid of energy. I won't say hope, but this year it's just like we understand what we have to do, and it has to be a we thing.
What do you think that is? I mean, is it the leadership? Is it the veterans in the room? Like, well, how have you been able to keep that kind of morale up?
I'll say it's got to be the locker room, right? Like each one of these guys, each one of these men is working their butt off in practice, and we're all speaking the same things. So if you talk to Brandon Cooks, it's like, man, we got to be positive. We got to be able to uplift our teammates. You talk to AK, and he's like, AK ain't never changed. So like he's always gonna be consistent as they come. Like, hey, this is the work that we have to do, and it's always been a we. So nobody's being an individual.
How have you seen Devaughn Vele progress? And he was one of those guys. Just what makes him ready for the moment?
Real intelligent guy, and that's one of the things I really liked about him, his size, his intelligence. We got him here, obviously, a little minor setback, some injury things, and, really excited about the opportunity. Now, obviously, he'll take on a much bigger role.
Was having limited role, was anything he was doing that was preventing him from seeing the field? Like, he just needed to learn more or anything there?
Well, I think obviously, when you first get to an organization, when you're coming in new and everything's different, there is going to be a steeper learning curve. And then there's also the flow of how things have already been going. You kind of go through training camp, you try and look at different guys in different situations, see who fits and does what well, and these type of things. And then, all of a sudden now you have a new piece. So it's trying to figure out how that piece fits. And, kind of same thing I talked about earlier with Taysom. You don't really know until you get him and you start doing things.
Is there anything about his approach to the game that stands out? Like, it looks like he blocks hard and everything, even though there's not a ton of targets. Like, he's still maximum effort and bought in and all of that.
Yeah, I think it's there's a lot of sports where guys don't necessarily show up in the stat line, but that they play an important role in their system for their team. And I think he's one of those guys. Obviously hasn't had the big breakout game catch-wise, but you look at the things he's done when he's been in the football game, and it's been productive for us on offense.
After going over the film and sitting down with Tyler and talking through the performance, what do you take away from this first start?
Well, obviously, it was a game that got away from us a little bit, sooner than we had expected or anticipated. But there's a lot of good things in there, and there's a lot of things to improve on. But the one thing was it wasn't too big for him. That's a dang good defense he played against. You tip your hat to their pass rush. They got some real dudes up front. And, like I said, going into the game, I know Giff and his guys are going to come after the passer. And so a lot of positives. Obviously, his first time out there. And so, I think you're really excited to see him go get the second one this week.
Kind of getting traded and Falagas or McCoy, so missing 3 starters on the offensive line. I'm just wondering when you make of that and what have you kind of seen of the offensive line to, despite the challenges, what do you make of that group?
Well, I'll say this. Obviously, throughout the season and where we're at, we're not satisfied with where we are from a win-loss standpoint. But, strong majority of the game, our guys have competed very, very hard and very well. The scoreboard hasn't gone our way, but it hasn't been for lack of effort. Now, there's been some times where we didn't, play with this type of play style that we want to be known for. But for the most part, our guys have played extremely hard. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's next man up. We're going to go play with our style of play and compete.
If you're trying to establish a new culture, come into a new place, get it going on, you want to do it, what are the benchmarks you're looking at beyond just yards, points? What's the stuff, the intangible things that maybe everyone doesn't see that you're looking for and looking to grow and foster so you got the foundation?
Yeah, I think the silent tape is what our culture is all about, and I think our silent tape through this stretch of season, we're proud of that in terms of how physical we play, the effort that we play with, the physicality on blocks, the way that we tackle, and I think that's on the tape against some of the premier teams in the league. I think that we have played a premium offensive schedule so far, and I think that our group has put a lot of quality on the film. From a style of play standpoint. And then I think, from just a scheme perspective, what you're looking for is, are you executing the scheme? Are there mental errors all over the tape, or are you solid and they're beating you? And I think that we've been able to do that. You don't see a bunch of, catastrophic errors on tape where you're turning people loose and you're giving them easy plays, getting easy first downs, easy explosions, easy touchdowns. And so I think that we can definitely build on that. And I think our group's playing together. And I think the other thing is you hope that your group is improving and they're developing. And I think that we can say that is true as well. So, again, great opportunity against Carolina to keep it going. We've got a good group of guys. And, again, last week, it's going to force us to respond this week. So it's going to be a good opportunity for our guys.
You've worked with some really good defensive tackles throughout your career. What is unique about Brian Brzee?
Yeah, I think probably his ability to play on all 3 downs. I think you don't have to take him off the field. There's some guys that are really good at stopping the run. There's some guys that are really good at rushing the passer. But I think that he can play on all 3 downs, and he can play with some versatility in where he can line up. But I think that probably what stands out for an interior D lineman is his pass rush ability. He can win in one-on-one pass rush. And I think that that's hard to find in the NFL. Most of the rush production in this league comes outside. So when you can find an inside pass rusher, it is unique, and it's something that is an advantage for you. So he's been a big asset for our defense. I think he's improved, in huge ways in the run game. And I think that in the pass rush game, he's been one of our top assets in pass rush. He's had a lot of quick winners. He continues to improve. And, excited to see him continue to take his game where it can go.
Is there stuff you can do to develop leadership, or is that just kind of inherent in players and they kind of emerge on their own?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. I think it's a combination. I definitely think that you can foster it and develop it. There's some guys who, potentially they've had a good upbringing in it, in terms of where they've been before, whether it was college, high school, whatever. Maybe it's their family, but I think anytime a person sort of demonstrates the ability to affect others, you definitely want to tap into that. And some guys it's different than others. I was around Khalil Mack, who was very soft-spoken, and his example was the leadership. And everybody followed him. and it was this example though. And then there's some other guys that talk a little bit more, and that are a little bit more active. And so everybody does it their own way. But what you try to do is those guys that can impact others, you want to pour into them as much as you can, so that they can see, their example, how impactful it can be.
When you're kind of like scouting for ideas, do you look at teams that are like structurally similar to yours, or is it like all kinds of different schemes, or like what's kind of your process for like watching the league?
Yeah, I think, we really try to watch offenses, more than anything, because you learn a lot more, I think, by what you have to defend as opposed to looking at another defense. I think more innovation comes that way because it tells you what you need to be doing, as opposed to, sort of looking at another defense. It's like, no, let the offense tell us what we need to design. At least that's the way I approach it. There are some guys, that I'm a fan of in this league for sure. There's plenty of defenses that play at a high level, and we do that too. And there's plenty of examples of it. Certainly I was with Vic, and, there's some other guys that I've coached with that, I'm a big fan of that, we coach together, or now they're doing their own way. But I think more than anything, you got to study offensive scheme, to truly, I think, innovate and take your own defensive scheme to where it can go.
When you get excited, like, what is kind of the process of identifying what they can do and how you're going to use them?
When a new guy,
like if they sign someone.
Yeah. So my first process is I go to the computer, and nowadays you can go on the PFF Ultimate, right? And I just type their name in, and I see what have they played in the NFL, preseason or regular season, right? And then if it's a guy who hasn't done much, I'll go back to my draft notes. We probably had evaluated him during the draft process, and if not, I'll go look at his college clips and try to evaluate what does he do well, and what areas of need, or who's not coming to the game now that the new player is up, and how can we make him be successful? I think I try to do my best with all of our players. I try to put them in positions on special teams to accentuate things that they do well. I very rarely try to put them in a situation where I know they don't do something well and ask them to do that. I don't think that's fair to the player or the team.
Justin said that he got past the kick on the one that he almost blocked. What did you see on that play?
He did. Look, here's what I think happened. I don't know for sure. I think Justin's been a guy throughout his career in that game that has such great get-off on there. And in his past, I think he's looked at the operation. So, like, sometimes, when you see the holders this or they tap the ground, he's done that in the past. And I think they thought he was doing that. So I think that they were trying to go on like a double hand tap, and I think the snapper snapped it on the first one. That's why you saw the kicker so slow to approach it. And, the normal get off on a field goal is like 1.3, and he was like 1.7 something. So for Justin, his normal path is I got to go 3, drive, crank, and lay out. And he did that, and it was so slow, he was actually by the ball.